Shabbat Shalom. This is Rabbi Cat Zavis from Beyt Tikkun, coming to you from Ohlone Land, also known as Oakland, California. And I am here to share my musings on this week's Parsha Vaera. We are in the book of Exodus. Moses has seen the transformative power of the universe, Yud-He Vav-He, in the burning bush, and has returned to Egypt to convince Pharaoh to let the Hebrews go into the wilderness. God appears to Moses in this week's Parsha Vaera and tells Moses, I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as El Shaddai, the nurturing God. To you, I am Yud-He Vav-He. Yud-He Vav-He tells Moses that he has heard the cries and groans of the Hebrews and remembers God's promise to care for and about them. So God sends Moses to be God's emissary with Pharaoh. Moses objects and tells God he can't possibly negotiate with Pharaoh because he has a speech impediment. He gets tongue-tied. God reassures Moses that Aaron will be there as well. Moses does not have to do this alone. God warns Moses that even though God will unleash plagues on the Egyptians, Pharaoh's heart will harden, and God will harden Pharaoh's heart. It is hard to read this story of liberation at this time in our collective history. Even as the fragile ceasefire holds and aid is finally entering Gaza, Netanyahu's government has unleashed a wave of violence and attacks in the Jenin refugee camp and throughout the West Bank, both by Israeli occupation forces and settlers, that is unprecedented, only exacerbating the genocide and ethnic cleansing. And in the United States, Trump has unveiled executive orders that threaten so many communities' safety and well-being, and that of the planet. People are terrified. I'd like to jump ahead in our story to when we have liberated ourselves from this current reality and are wandering lost in the desert. But alas, here we are. So what might we learn from this week's Parsha? We are told that God heard the groans and cries of the Hebrews and remembered God's promise to care for them. It is the cries and grief of humanity that unleashes divine compassion, both that within us and beyond us, that lays the seeds for liberation. Mourning and grieving are the foundation upon which and from which healing, repair, and transformation are birthed. Take time to cry and grieve, to groan and scream and mourn. When we really listen and hear the cries and groans of humanity, it will stir and awaken within us the courage to speak truth to power and stand up for liberation and justice, even if we are tongue-tied. Moses is sent to tell Pharaoh that if he continues to oppress the Hebrews and does not let them go, there will be a series of environmental plagues. Yet Pharaoh refuses to listen. He doesn't care about the environmental catastrophes unfolding around him. All he cares about is himself and his power. Pharaoh does not believe that the plagues are warnings that should be heeded. In fact, his own magicians reenact the same plagues after God. For example, when God unleashes the plague of blood in the river, Pharaoh's magicians did the same by means of their incantations. This only strengthens Pharaoh's heart and disbelief. The text says that Pharaoh kept hardening his heart, making his heart stubborn. Pharaoh is intentionally strengthening his heart so he could resist and deny what he is actually seeing before his eyes. It seems that both Netanyahu and Trump respond the same way to threats to their power and authority. Even as the International Criminal Court issues an arrest warrant for Netanyahu, he remains defiant. Likewise, even as we face increasing levels of climate catastrophe, from floods to fires to record freezing temperatures, rather than take steps to address the climate catastrophe, Trump signs executive orders withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accords and other actions that will only worsen the situation. Both Trump and Netanyahu's hearts are hardened. A hardened heart makes it impossible to see, let alone care about the other or the planet. And what was Moses' role in all of this? We are told his job is to speak to Pharaoh, and certainly that is part of his job, to speak truth to power. But he had another job that may have been even more important. His mission was to build trust, faith, and resilience among the slaves, so they would eventually have the moral, psychological, and spiritual strength to kill the sacred animal of Egypt and spread its blood on their doorpost, seek reparations from the Egyptians, and ultimately leave Egypt. They had to have the courage and fortitude to join together as a united front and walk away from a life that was known and familiar into the unknown wilderness. They did not do this alone. The story tells us that the mixed multitude left with them, people from all different walks of life, different places in the hierarchy of Egyptian society left with the Hebrews. Moses' job was to begin the process of nation building, and this is our work as well. We are hearing the groans and cries of the oppressed. We are coming together to challenge and confront the pharaohs of our time. Nation building, movement building, takes time. There are setbacks along the way. Yet joining together as a mixed multitude of peoples from all walks of life and different identities and different stations in society and the world is what it is going to take to bring forth our collective liberation and to uplift the humanity of all. Together, we can build a nation and world grounded in values of love and care, kindness and generosity, justice, dignity, liberation, and ecological sustainability. We can't get there alone. We can only get there together. The road will be bumpy, things will be challenging and even horrific. And we can and must, again and again, lean into one another and have faith and trust that we will prevail. Shabbat Shalom. In the link below, you can sign up for our upcoming Torah study. We'll also have Tu B'Shvat at that time, which is Saturday, February 8th. So I hope you'll sign up for that and join us either in person or on Zoom. In the meantime, I'm wishing you a restful and nourishing Shabbat.